Alrighty, hello and welcome to the Square Enix E3 2021 post-conference discussion. I'm Darby Hallman. I'm joined with Jeff Mayo. We have Brent Gillhan and we have Holden Depardo. And maybe Jacob. Jacob? I don't think we have Jacob.
Do you want me to hop on?
Oh, hey. I didn't know if you were still on the
Yeah,
call.
I mean, my mic's shit, so I didn't want to bother y'all.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you're fine. It's only like when you talk, it's just like a tiny bit airy, but it's fine. I don't think it's bad enough to join up. We also have Jacob Hamill over there.
I'm here. Hello.
He is here. Hello. So we just watched the Square Enix press conference. It was about 40 minutes long. Took some turns I wasn't expecting in just lots of ways. I mean, not even good or bad, like some good, some bad. It just wasn't what I was expecting. That's all I could say.
Yeah.
Sure. What do we think overall? Jeff, what do you think?
As a whole, not particularly great.
It's a hard one to unpack.
Yeah, I mean the games that they actually showed something of substance for. I guess in the whole 40 minutes, technically only 4 with Guardians. I guess 5. Phone Avengers, Babylon's Fall, Life is Strange, Final Fantasy. That's fine. But Guardians went on and they are a little too long. Yeah. That was the main thing. And then just from then, the pacing just seemed off in a weird way that's hard to
all
describe.
Over the place,
yeah,
all over the place.
That I feel like I wasn't able to recover from.
It was.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Alden.
I completely agree with that. There wasn't Guardians to me was fine. It doesn't look awful, but like just not for me. The only thing I was looking forward to is that Final Fantasy game, and we didn't really see that much of it. And the guys kind of annoyed me in the trailer, so I don't know. Like it's kind of like a letdown. But yeah, like the pacing issues too much on Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know. It was a weird event.
Yeah, that about sums up my thoughts. I was really only looking forward to the Final Fantasy thing, and that just came off not right for me. And so really there was nothing here in this presentation that I found super appealing.
Yeah, I have to say, I really want to talk to see what Jeff thinks about it. But it was like, yeah, the Final Fantasy thing was the only thing I cared about, and I'm pretty instantly out. It's kind of crazy. I've never had like a reveal trailer just immediately be like, oh, okay. I think just the vibe, like the character designs and the actual like vibe of the characters was enough to where it's like it kind of doesn't matter what the gameplay is now. It's like that's just not what I wanted from this. I was picturing honestly, I was picturing a silent protagonist almost type of thing. Like I usually don't want, but I would rather that than this. I was expecting it to like feel like, Final Fantasy 1, like bright colors, cool shit like that or whatever, and to see a bunch of Final Fantasy monsters, but then to have this like cool gameplay style. This it looks like a new game, and it looks like a Final Fantasy 15-esque like super emo boy like thing or whatever. It just does not look like, it's just not what I thought it was gonna be. Like just full stop. And I think the characters just seem very annoying. It's just not really what I thought, so I'm probably out of that. And like, yeah, I think for the conference itself was very poorly paced. I think Guardians looks good for what it is. I mean, I think it is very much an Uncharted Tomb Raider type game, and I think it's going to be a well-made game, and a lot of people are going to enjoy it. I still don't know if I'm going to necessarily vibe with it, but, I'm not mad about that one. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm like the only one that was like kind of positive on it.
Oh, that's great. No, please.
No, like yeah, I saw people like in your chat saying it was boring, and I disagree. I mean obviously I'm biased. I love Marvel, I love superhero things, but I think Guardians looks really cool. I like the update we got on Avengers, seeing the Wakanda stuff. Like I don't think the thing was boring. I mean sure there's some games that didn't like vibe with me, like all the mobile games and then just Final Fantasy. Like I don't vibe with that kind of stuff, but I think the presentation went by like they knew what to show off and what to just like show for 2 seconds. So I don't think the pacing was off at all. Like I don't think it was boring. There's just a lot of things that weren't for me, but the Guardians of the Galaxy game, I honestly forgot about it because like I just found out about it a week ago and then forgot it was going to be here. Really enjoyed it. I think it looks awesome. I love Avengers, but this looks so far like not Avengers, and I'm really looking forward to that. 'Cause the gameplay looks really like smooth and fun, and then all like the fact that you are only Star-Lord and you're controlling your squad and like making choices and doing things like that. I think that looks really cool. Getting to go to like cool planets and fight like cool alien life forms. Like I don't I don't see like what looks bad about this game. Like I think it looks really cool, honestly.
Yeah, I honestly, the more they, despite the fact I think it overlog, the kind of more they shows, like the more I actually got interested in the game, potentially getting it.
Yeah,
It is the Uncharted thing. I'm not as tired on this game as Darius because I haven't played this much.
Yeah, my criticism is not really of the game; it's of the entire genre. I'm just burnt out.
Yeah, and there are characters I like, and I do like how they're going with the choices that, and we'll have to see, might matter with the whole like selling Rocket and Groot thing. It could lead to ultimately the same thing. I mean, absolutely nothing, but at least the way they present it is like, okay, this could mean something.
Yeah,
Which would be interesting.
Yeah, it's an extra element for sure.
I'm like Brent saying, the fact that it's Star-Lord all alone, like that's the only playable character, I think is a good thing for the gameplay since it is single player. And I did like the fact that, you seem to have like a little, the whole mechanics of selecting the other Guardians to do moves. Like you click on you look like you clicked on a Guardian and then they had like at least like 4 moves to select there. And I think that posed some interesting strategy and stuff as, you learn the game.
It reminds me of a more in-depth like Marvel Ultimate Alliance without actually clicking on the character. Like in Ultimate Alliance, you'd play the character, but this looks kind of like similar where you still could play as one character, but like control the other squad and like tell them like what to do. So it's like it looks similar, and I'm all about that because I think a lot of people wanted Avengers to be like Ultimate Alliance. So this is like kind of like treading that line. And like seeing like cool set pieces like that, like him like sliding down and things like that, I think looks really sick to be able to kind of get cool set pieces like you necessarily couldn't in Avengers. So I think this will be what people wanted Avengers to be, except it's obviously the Guardians of the Galaxy and not the Avengers.
But it can be more focused than Avengers, which I think will Avengers kind of seemed like a greatest hits of a lot of things, but didn't excel in any, didn't like really go into like a lot of different characters. But I mean, I think we're kind of in a gaming bubble. I think like our like kind of Twitter bubble is way more into like single player RPG like type games or whatever. I think like this is gonna please at least our group of our Twitter bubble a lot more than Avengers, I think, overall. And I mean, it's just like it's not trying to. I mean, it's hard to make like a co-op games of service type of game like Avengers or whatever. I think this is an easier thing to get right,
Yeah,
especially coming from Eidos Montreal just did Shadow of the Tomb Raider. That I mean, like, and this looks a lot like that. When it actually got to the gameplay, I'm like, okay, yeah, like. Had a real re-into it's like it's different, but like this is definitely like at its core it's more Tomb Raider type over the shoulder shooting, probably doing a lot of Uncharted climbing and stuff like that, that kind of game. Yeah,
I see to point out your chat boring and dead Avengers game. I don't agree with that, man.
But he is right. Where is just
he's not right.
No. I'm not saying about that. That's an opinion thing. I'm saying
I don't like it when our kids fight.
No. But Moses brings up the good point of when are we just gonna get a straight up Wakanda game?
Yeah, it would be dope.
Yeah, or ask if we will get it. Now that's something.
I'm mostly messing, but I mean, like Avengers does have like a pretty big player base that I don't think is dead. Like there's a very vocal community there that does enjoy the game. And I think there's some really good aspects of the game I think get overlooked in the greater conversation of the game by people that played a little bit or just.
It's definitely memed on way
too much. Play it, but yeah, exactly. I think when you play more of the game and you really focus on it, there's some awesome combo like abilities in that game that people didn't really get to experience.
Didn't that game hit like a new low for player count though?
Yeah, but that's like on Steam. Like people were looking at the Steam numbers and it's like not a lot of people were gonna play that on PC, especially with Spider-Man being touted as I'm not here saying Avengers has like a huge player base. Like I'm not saying like I know it's low, but I think people count that game out way too much.
I mean, people at the internet, and we're guilty of it too sometimes, they definitely decide like, oh, this game is bad. It's like bad game. It's like that's like what the game is. It's like no matter what happens, it's like you've kind of made your mind up on the game, which is definitely not.
Yeah.
True.
Which
I know I
definitely
seem
have
like a
noticed
huge
with
simp
Avengers.
I know I seem like the biggest Avengers like defender. I do think that game has cool aspects that kind of get overlooked.
No, I completely understand that.
So-
Well, do we need to talk about anything else other than Final Fantasy Origins?
I feel like we should at least. I mean, Life is Strange. It
Oh,
sounds like
Babylon's Fall. I forgot about Babylon's
yeah,
Fall.
Babylon's Fall. Life is Strange. Darby and I are into it.
Yeah, I'm in.
The presentation might have went a little long.
Yeah, I don't think the presentation was the best, but I still know.
Like
that
it was
I'm in.
like I guess to critique that part just real quick. It was not people who follow Life is Strange True Colors. It was nothing new whatsoever. And for people who don't know, like Holden was talking about, how he reacted to it was this is a little long and not particularly interesting because it just kind of
It doesn't show well. It's not really a game that you should show a super extended thing like that because it's not really something that you're going to be able to communicate super well. It's just going to come across. I get it. I was bored watching it, and I know I'm going to really enjoy this game.
Yeah.
It's just not a very good. That's just not the way to show that game. I
Yeah,
think.
there's definitely games that just do not present themselves well.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Like
a super.
you need to play some games.
It's a super story heavy game. It's just not really something that showing like that extended gameplay thing is really going to do much for.
That's why I
just
think
get
Game Pass
especially
is.
bored.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just get especially bored during the Life is Strange stuff because as someone who doesn't really care for that style of game in the first place, it just seems like the same game is being advertised to me every single time, and I can't even tell the difference between them. So it's just like they always spend so much time on Life is Strange. I don't understand it. Is it really that big? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that game was huge when it came out. That was like
fan base.
every YouTube like Let's Player was like playing that game, and it was huge. It was like almost. It's weird to compare, but like in the YouTube scale, it was almost like The Last of Us and how huge that game was for like every like YouTube Let's Player.
I think he has a very dedicated fan base. I mean, I think the fan base is decently big, but it's like they're ride or die. I mean, like me and Jeff are gonna play it for sure. I mean, like we're kind of. I agree that maybe the presentation wasn't the best, but like I'm definitely down for it. I mean, there is an element of guilty pleasure with Life is Strange. It's very cheesy and very corny and everything, like teenage. It's just something like not everyone's gonna be into that type of thing, and that's very understandable. All right, really quick before we get into Final Fantasy Origins, which is definitely going to be the bulk of this. What did you think about Babylon's Fall?
looked rough. Especially how long it was announced. What 2-3 years ago?
That sounds about right.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the main thing I got out of it, like to get me excited, is the co-op aspect of it. That's just kind of different. That's different for Platinum games.
I think I must disagree with that. I feel like a co-op Platinum game would be incredibly infuriating and frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like their method of character action does not suit itself well to co-op or multiplayer at all.
Fair. No, I think you could definitely go that route. It's just as far as like comparing it to other Platinum games, it just the way they talked about it and what they showed looked a little more generic compared to other ones. So that at least gave it a potential hook to make it stand out. More I was getting at.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it does relative to other Platinum games. I mean, a lot of their type of games don't sell particularly well, although I guess Astral Chain did well enough to get a sequel. But I don't know. I'm interested to see it. I just, when I think of Platinum games, I think of people in a single player setting mastering the systems in that game and doing really cool things. And I just don't see that necessarily working well with more than one person.
It would definitely depend on how it's designed.
Yeah.
They would, if it's just like straight Platinum game, we would just put in a second person. Yeah, that might just become freaking chaos, or it might feel claustrophobic. It's like, get out of my way.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do things. So, yeah. So, all right. Final Fantasy Origins. Jeff, what did you think?
That also looked a little rough in places. As far as like you mentioned the tone earlier, the general tone of that, like the actual areas and stuff, that was more what I was expecting. It seemed like me and you had different expectations as far as that goes.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
As far as the things, it's I guess as far as like the characters and stuff, designs look a little less fantasy as far as the main characters go than I was expecting for sure. The whole like trying to kill chaos thing, that's Final Fantasy. Like, but I will say they said that way too much. They talked way too much and said the same thing over and over again.
It's more just the dude bro thing that I'm more referring to. That like I did not really like. Yeah. But sorry, continue.
But gameplay, I don't know. I need to see about that. But an important thing to note is, according to the description on YouTube that they uploaded, the trial version is available on PlayStation 5 until June 24th. So that means it should come out any day now.
Nice.
And you could play it on PS5. So you will get impressions from me, I am sure.
Nice. Jacob, what did you think about Final Fantasy Origins?
I think that trailer dashed any interest I could possibly have in that game. Like you guys said, the character designs and just the overall style of it, that's just not my thing. And I would not want to play a game with that type of banter. It just seems incredibly dull and boring, and just the dudes in generic black t-shirts is just, I don't see any appeal in it for me.
My thoughts exactly. Word for word.
Yeah, same here. The personality of the guys alone just turned me off completely. Like I just don't want to deal with that for a 30-hour campaign that was likely to. Yeah, I mean, it's a Final Fantasy game. It's a Souls game. So, like, yeah, about 30 hours. I don't want to deal with that for 30 hours.
It was just the
not
epitome of the side of Square Enix that I don't vibe with. I mean, like Square Enix is a weird company where they have like games I absolutely love and games I absolutely hate, and sometimes they're in the same franchise, both ends of the spectrum. But like this is just an example of that kind of seemingly like early 2000s Hot Topic-esque vibe that Square Enix sometimes goes down or whatever. They haven't done it as much. I mean, it seems like it's kind of like 15, but taken. The 15 characters were not nearly as annoying. I still don't like the 15 characters, and they're part of why I didn't play that game. But this, like, at least the 15 characters, I actually bought 15 and enjoyed some of it or whatever. This is the fastest I've just been from, like, initial trailer. I'm like, ripcord out. It's like, 'cause it's just too much of that for me. Personally.
Yeah, my thoughts exactly. Like I see the appeal in Final Fantasy 15's characters, but this I can't imagine anyone who was into like, Noctis and Ignis and whoever like would also like these characters. They just seem like the generic off-brand version of those guys.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know. I was just picturing. I mean, I guess I was just picturing something a little bit more fantastical. I mean, I knew it was going to be like serious, but I mean, I didn't expect it to be Devil May Cry, black and red, and screaming and everything. Like I was wanting more like like big mystical Final Fantasy monsters and stuff like that, and like knights and shit. I don't know. I was just like wasn't expecting the like super modern looking guys. And quite so much of a gothic setting, but I guess I just had my expectations wrong clearly.
They hyped it up to the end too by saying this is like the new era of Final Fantasy or something like that.
It's supposed to be set in Final Fantasy 1, but it does just feel like its own thing. I mean, I know it has Garland and stuff, but
Yeah.
it does not feel like it's in Final Fantasy 1 to me. Just looking at it.
The trailer is playing again right now. It should say it's like tagline or whatever, but I was surprised by that.
Yeah, it's a tagline. Bold new vision for Final Fantasy coming 2022.
That's what it was.
Moses, we have Final Fantasy 7
Bold new
remake.
vision.
That's not medieval Europe.
The only one you need, Darby.
Yeah, it's the only one you need.
I mean, Final Fantasy can do a dark, kind of gothic medieval setting, but you have to do something interesting with it. And this is probably the most generic and boring version of that vision of fantasy you could possibly imagine.
I will not shut up, Moses. Yeah, because I mean, even the enemy, I mean, obviously the three main characters, I mean, that's enough, again, to unsell me from the game. But even the enemies and Garland and everything, still like, I was like, hopefully at least they have something kind of interesting visual designs, but it's like I didn't really get that either. Even from like a Souls type game, I didn't get like look at some of the enemies and like you look at some of the Souls enemies and it's like, oh my god, this thing is terrifying or so like interesting and weird. And it's like this, it kind of did like, I mean, you could say this was not Final Fantasy. I'd be like, yeah, it's like, it just kind of looks like Knight Man and Man, for the most part. And I don't feel like we got to see enough of combat to make it look like, yeah, this looks like a really super well done Souls type thing. It might be. The combat might be great.
That's because people could try it in an hour.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm just judging this trailer. I'm judging the trailer we saw. I'm trying to find something to latch onto, and there's nothing. Like not even. I can't even latch onto the gameplay really from just this trailer. But even if the gameplay was the best thing ever, I'm out. I mean, I already don't play Souls games really, so I already needed. I needed this to have a Final Fantasy hook to get me to play it anyway, and like that type of hook is just not there for me for this, which unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, Souls does the gothic medieval fantasy stuff, but I feel like it does it in a much more interesting way than this. And, Final Fantasy has been a lot of things and can be anything. And you could take that gothic tone and apply it to a ton of different settings. And this is just the most obvious, boring way to do it, frankly.
I agree. Hate to be so negative, but I do agree. Well, that was Square Enix, ladies and gentlemen. And that was the end of our E3 coverage for the day. We will be back on Tuesday. Me and Jeff are actually working during the conference, so we will not be doing that live, but we will be doing a post-conference. I know, it's a bummer. We will be doing a post-conference discussion that night to see what crazy bullshit happens.
Save us, Nintendo.
Well, gentlemen, thank you all so much for joining me. It was a blast. Had a very good time.
Yep.
Yeah, it was great, man.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely, we've already, Holden said that he's going to come back and talk about Nintendo stuff with us on Tuesday. Any of the rest of y'all are welcome to hop on that discussion as well.
I'll try. I got to drive 4 hours on Tuesday, but I'll put it into my schedule.
Okay.
Oof. Yeah, in the car. Just just call us in the car.
I could do that.
That would be
And
funny.
McDonald's drive-through.
Oh my God, it'd be great. All right. Thank you guys so much. Peace.
Bye.